Good morning. We're going to be in 2 Timothy chapter 2. Years ago, I was going to give a lecture series in the Philippines at a pastor's conference looking at 2 Timothy. And I ended up getting very ill there and was unable to give much of the lectures at all. I was disappointed, but boy, my study of it really fueled me as a younger man in ministry. And it is probably my favorite letter in the New Testament. And it's just beautiful in so many ways. A really fitting final letter from the Apostle Paul, probably within a year to year and a half of his death or thereabouts. My favorite section in this little letter is the section we're going to look at over the next few days from 2 Timothy chapter 2, verses 1 through 7. So today I just want to take the first verse of chapter 2 and just give you one thought to think about today. The verse goes like this: "You then, my child, be strengthened by the grace that is in Christ Jesus." Now he's going to talk, to tip the hand, he's going to talk about discipleship. And I'm passionate about discipleship, have a deep commitment to discipleship, and I find a lot of the nuts and bolts and the motivation from the text for discipleship in these 7 verses is just rich and full. But what a fitting way to start discussing discipleship, by saying, "You then, my child, be strengthened by the grace that is in Christ Jesus." That's all the verse says. Sometimes evangelicalism in its past, not early on, Puritans and so forth, but subsequent to that, as particularly in the Second Great Awakening and a little bit leading up to it, evangelicalism began to have a kind of a thin view of grace, it seems. And that thin view evolved in the 20th century, and pockets of evangelicalism began to teach a view of grace that seemed like grace only dealt with guilt. And so grace was only the thing that showed up to save you from eternity away from God. Now you might say, well, only, that's a pretty big deal. Yeah, it is a big deal. And it's an amazing aspect of grace. But it's not the only aspect of grace. Grace is really probably best defined, I like the way Dallas Willard defines it, as God's power at work in our life. But like any dictionary definition, you get the definition and then you put the definition in context, right? In a sentence. And that's why when you look at a definition, it usually has 3 or 4 ways that the word can be used. And the dictionary shows you that. Well, grace is like that. So when we think about grace, grace is God's power, but an undeserved power. But that undeserved power shows up sometimes to forgive you of sin and deal with your guilt. But it also shows up to restore you. It also shows up to strengthen you for life and ministry. It also shows up to enable you and to quicken you. It does a number of things in your life, and it helps you be able to accomplish really things that necessitate perseverance. And so here he says, "You then, my child, be strengthened by the grace that is in Christ Jesus." Today you're going to need God in your life. You're going to need God's grace to strengthen you for something. Maybe it's a relationship. Maybe it is a disappointment. Maybe it is a financial hurdle. Maybe it's an organizational hurdle. Maybe it's something that's long plagued you. I don't know. Maybe it's a health issue. But you're going to need grace. You're going to need God's power. So listen, I want to encourage you. Lean into the grace of God, number 1, prayerfully. Secondly, rest in the fact that you're not doing life alone today. You can be strengthened by grace. Have a wonderful day.